It's about the restoration of our republic. We want to educate, encourage, enable the power. We stand for integrity, honesty, self-reliance, self-defense, and most importantly, no compromise on our foundational principles. This is America's Voice Now.
Find America's Voice Now on Facebook and at americasvoicenow.org. Here's Michael Evans.
Good morning, America. You're listening to America's Voice right here, right now. My name is Michael Evans. I will be your host this morning, whether you like it or not. It is Friday. Thank goodness for that, huh? Fridays hold a special place in my heart. So, hey, quick note, by the way, if you're in the area geographically, there is going to be a gun show held in Mountain Grove, and that will be on March 8th and 9th. I believe that's Saturday and Sunday. And it runs from Saturday from 9 to 5 and Sunday from 9 to 3. If you need more information or directions, you can call 270-1969. That's 417-270-1969. There's going to be a friend of mine over there, a guy by the name of Chad, who runs a company called Red River Guns. And Chad is he's got a kind of a neat product line, especially if you are if you were listening to our prior shows where I talked about making sure that you always have spare parts on hand. One of the things in the products that he sells is all AR replacement parts. And so if you are in need of a set of springs, or you need a set of crush washers, a new muzzle, or a new flash hider, or whatever the case may be, he has those kinds of things. He's also got extra bolts and stuff like that. Encourage you to get out there if you can and meet with him. His name is Chad, and he will be at a table called Red River Guns. They also, by the way, have complete 7.62 uppers that 7.62 by 39. So you can mount those over your on a regular AR lower, and that way convert it to a caliber that shoots a 30 caliber bullet. Which I'm not a real fan of the 7.62 by 39 for long range. It's okay for short, but it has one advantage: ammo right now is available and it is cheap. So I would. And he guarantees it to work, by the way. If for any reason it doesn't, he's right in New Madrid, and he can replace it personally. So I encourage you to get out there if at all possible so that you can participate with him. Okay. Yeah, you can see their website, by the way, at redriverguns.com. Redriverguns.com. You can also order parts online, so if you're not local, and you can order from them online. There's a phone number on there, too. You can email him at chad@redriverguns.com. Chad, C-H-A-D, at redriverguns.com. So there are a couple of other things of housekeeping which we'll kind of cover this morning, but our topics this morning are going to be, do the Obamas apparently have some kind of a God complex or something? I mean, what is going on with these two? The other day, Barack came out and he said, those people that are pressing forward on the Obamacare initiatives to try to get suckers to sign up and so forth, they're doing God's work. Now, Michelle came out yesterday and said the same thing. I got to tell you, what bothers me about that is that, people who make those kinds of statements are demagogues, and only monsters and demagogues and people who have a megomaniacal self-view actually make statements like that. They try to align themselves, especially people in politics. Now, I'm not talking about your pastor, but I am talking about people in politics who try to say, you're doing God's work if you do my work. You see, the problem with that, of course, is that on one hand, they scream separation of church and state. But then as soon as it's beneficial for them to tie themselves to God in some way, shape, or form so that they can get more suckers to follow along as they whistle through the field, Pied Pipering their way into demise, then it's, you're doing God's work if you're working and following me. All right. I'll make plenty of fun of her later during her segment. Anyway, the second segment is going to be the Obamacare issue of signing up the uninsured. Now, that was the original premise behind the bill, right? I mean, the whole idea was that we had 30 million uninsured Americans and that they needed coverage because it was a human right. Then, of course, we find out the real truth that, frankly, none of them are ever going to sign up. Even the government itself admits that. And now we find out that actually only 1 in 10 have signed up. 10%. So we're seizing 1/6 of the national economy. We're completely destroying the medical industry. We're going to add literally trillions of dollars of expense to the American worker so that, we can cover 3 million people? We're going to destroy the insurance policies of millions upon millions of Americans. We're going to change the nature and the fundamental methodology that most people have insurance under today so that 3 million people can get insured. Hallelujah. You're doing God's work. How shameful. All right, our third segment. You know, I touched on this story last week about how the CIA is in this death grip battle with the Senate Intelligence Committee, who oversees their operations. Now, no one would believe for a moment that the Senate or somebody should not be overseeing the CIA. I mean, the dogs of war are out there wreaking havoc, raping and pillaging nations, nation-states. I mean, these guys are the worst of the dirtiest of the dirty. So they're really affronted when a Senate staffer snuck into Langley and snitched a bunch of documents. And man, they don't like it when them tables are turned on them, do they? So they're actually trying to discuss how they're going to resolve the problem. It resulted in the Intelligence Committee, which, you know, Senate Intelligence Committee is one of those oxymorons, right? That's like jumbo shrimp or baby grand piano. And the idea, of course, is that these people are supposed to oversee the CIA and make sure that they're not playing dirty. Well, of course, we know that they've done a fairly lousy job of that, and everything is a secret. Secret squirrel. Well, one of their assistants and staffers literally was in Langley and wandered out of there with a bunch of paperwork that the CIA is having kittens over. And CIA Director John Brennan is flipping out. By the way, John Brennan is an avowed Muslim convert, has no business. He is an ideologue, a demagogue, and he is a dangerous man. And he has no business running the CIA. And he's upset, of course, that this guy stole those documents. Well, I mean, with all due respect, the idea of the Senate Oversight Committee is that they are to keep watch over the CIA. So, therefore, there are no documents that should not be open to the Senate Intelligence Committee. Nothing the CIA does is not subject to their review. I mean, if you want to put this into human terms, if the CIA is sitting on the bowl, the Senate Intelligence Committee has the right to watch. How's that? All right, our last topic this morning will be the spy game. The cops are using Stingray systems, which they tap into local cell phone towers, and they monitor the communications, the geographic location, and all of the texts and cell phone calls of everyone within the range of that particular tower. They've obtained this equipment, and they're using it all over the place. Here's the problem, folks. We've got thousands of little mini-me NSAs running around in every little county, in every little city, in every little town. And you tell me that there's not abuse going on. Well, we know there is. because it's not possible that there not be abuse going on. In fact, there's an article out in Tallahassee this morning about how it was taken to court, and the police specifically refused to go get a warrant. Now the guy is raising the issue saying, well, wait a second. It's a Fourth Amendment violation. You see, the truth is that the cops get away with things like this until they get caught. Then suddenly, it throws all of their arrests that were gotten as a result of this technology into question. All the convictions, they're all entitled to a new trial. We're going to talk more about it. And here's my concern, and you should be voicing this in your own communities. Do we have a little mini-me NSA in every sheriff's department and every little city-town police department and every major city police department? Do we have little mini-me's of the NSA running around saying, me, I get to spy on you too? No one's overseeing it. Nobody even knows it's happening. You know what that's called, ladies and gentlemen? Criminal behavior. Criminal behavior. When the cops utilize crime to catch other alleged criminals, we've got a problem. All right, let's get into our first story this morning. Last week I told you about Barack Obama coming out and telling people, if you are working with me, if you are following my policies, if you are utilizing the tools I've given you to get people to sign up for Obamacare, if you are a warrior for Obamacare, you're doing God's work. And I decried that as the statement of a demagogue. And I explained to you at that point that only monsters and tyrants use that kind of language. They align themselves with God because they know that it will draw people to their game, to their side, to their support, to their following. The truth of the matter is, this is the same crowd of people that will swear up and down that God has no place in government, that you can't have the Ten Commandments on the wall, that you can't have "In God We Trust" printed on the money, that you can't say a prayer at the opening of the Senate or the House, that you can't have religious organizations even talk about religion and politics within the same context on the pulpit, that if you mention politics in your church, we can yank your 501c3. You're precious. You're precious. Your little tax exemption, the thing you live for, the thing that you value even above your God. Yes, that was a knock on churches. Yes, I feel strongly about it. Yes, I don't care if you're offended. The truth is, when you've got people who on one hand say, religion can play no role in government whatsoever, it is unconscionable, it is unfair, it is disrespectful, it is prejudicial against those religions that aren't represented, and then in the next breath turns around and says, but when you follow me, you're doing God's work. I tell you that is the mark of evil. Pure, unadulterated, unmitigated evil. Make no mistake about it. Any political entity, any political individual who aligns themselves with God and says, by following me, you are a loyal follower of God, is a dangerous person. You know, John Bolton was at CPAC the other day, and he said, the number one problem we have with foreign policy in our country is not Russia, it's not Putin, it's not all of these issues that are going on. It's Barack Obama. And I'm here to suggest to you that the number one policy we have, or the number one problem, I should say, that we have in our government, period, across the board, irrespective of whatever other issue it comes under, is Barack Obama and his minions, who are all doing God's work. You see, the truth of the matter is that none of these people are doing God's work. In fact, with all due respect, I'm willing to bet that God's got a special punishment and a special slap down for them when they arrive. You know why? Because I'm pretty confident, I could be wrong here, but I'm pretty confident that God doesn't like people to use him in that way. God doesn't like it when people turn around and try to ally themselves with God while simultaneously, realistically, abusing those people that they are alleged to represent. I think God doesn't like scammers, and I don't think he likes con artists. The truth is, these people who are out there running around proclaiming to be something along those lines are exactly that. They're con artists, they're scammers, and the rest of us, quite unfortunately, have to be tied in with their misrepresentations and lies. I find that pretty pathetic and pretty frightening, frankly. You know, almost invariably, if you look back historically at tyrants, megalomaniacs, anyone who is in the business of seeking followers so that they have power, you will find invariably that there's not a single instance where some of them have used God as a methodology to bring a certain contingent to their side. The problem with that, of course, is that it really leaves, and it's a very, very unfair methodology or way of drawing people to you, because they use those people in a religious context, and then when they're all used up and their value has been for all intents and purposes, finished, then they destroy them or they shut them down. I mean, you don't have to look hard to see where that's happened in the past. Take a look at people like Hitler that did that. He allied himself with the religious right and the Christians. I mean, come on. You're going to try and tell me Hitler was a Christian? Really? You're kidding, right? You can't be serious. I don't know any God that would support murder. Period. And I don't care what cross you ally yourself with. I don't care how you try to tie yourself to some religious entity or organization. There's no God that supports that. And none of us should be fooled into thinking that there is. When I hear somebody like Barack Obama throw that nonsense out, or Michelle Obama throw that out, it makes me believe that these people have a motive and an intention that is antithetical to liberty, to freedom, to honesty, to all of the things that we live for, we believe in as a nation. There's no denying the fact that these people are, for all intents and purposes, monsters of their own. They are anything but. They are anything but religious people. They don't believe in God. I don't think they do. And if you call what they do practicing good religion, we probably have nothing further to talk about. The upshot of all of it is, anytime you hear somebody ally themselves with God, unless it is the minister of your church, and even then I'd question it, you need to run the other direction. And I do mean run. No doubt about it. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about how few people have actually signed up for Obamacare. The whole premise of this thing was that we would have 30 million people who would suddenly gain insurance because, and it wasn't going to cost us a penny, remember? I mean, the promise was, this won't cost us one penny. This will be revenue neutral. It's not going to cost the taxpayers anything. And we're going to insure and cover 30 million people. We're going to do it in a way that's so invisible to you, you're never even going to see it happening. It's seamless. Now, of course, the truth comes out, which is always the problem with demagogues and men and women of evil. They promise you one thing and deliver another. Now we're finding out that less than 10% of the 30 million have actually signed up, and the deadline's almost here. Which really means that the whole premise of the thing was never to sign up the uninsured. It was to gain control over the rest of us. It wasn't to cover 30 million. It was to make sure that there were 285 million others who came underneath government control. And that's the truth. Everything else you hear about Obamacare is a flat-out lie. All right, we're going to take a break. When we return, we will tackle this topic. We will make sure that we get what's happening with it. If you'd like to email me, you can send me an email to mike@americasvoicenow.org. You're listening to America's Voice Now. You can find us on that website at americasvoicenow.org. Hang on a minute. We'll be right back. If you have an opportunity to visit with any of our sponsors, please do. You can find our friends over at law offices of Jason Henry at 417-256-4100. Patriot Cigar and Tobacco Shop at 257-1776 for instructions, directions, and more information. They carry hundreds of cigars, by the way. All kinds of brands. Wits End Classic Barbershop, 417-372-2027. Make sure that you see our friends over at Express Mini Marts 1 and 2, located on 14 and 63 on the north side of West Plains. They have a drive-through there. Lowest prices on cigarettes and tobacco products. They also carry all kinds of ice-cold beer and liquor and coolers and things like that, wine coolers and stuff like that. Second location down right across the street from the pool in West Plains, the city pool. Make sure that you swing in there, and both locations have a drive-through. Make sure that you get a chance to swing through there, and while you're there, just make sure that you mention to them you heard about it on America's Voice Now. Pizza Hut on Porter Wagoner Boulevard. Today is Friday. Great day to go down there for lunch or take the family down there for dinner. Tuesdays and Thursdays, reduced lunch prices. Tuesday night, kids eat free, family night. Make sure that you swing by our friends over at Battery Station, 417-257-7799, or you can catch them on the web at batterystation.com. They have every kind of survival product that you could ever imagine, and they've got them all right there in their shop. It's not all on the web, so make sure that you give them a call, 417-257-7799. We'll be back in just a moment. You're listening to America's Voice Now. Hey, Patriots, we're back. I'm always impressed by people who are willing to stand up for their beliefs, especially in the face of persecution and in the face of those people who, tell them, oh, you're wearing a tinfoil hat, blah, 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 blah. Truth of the matter is that those who are willing to stand up and have the courage of their convictions those who are willing to stand up in the face of adversity, those are the real heroes. You know, Mark Twain was very accurate when he said in the beginning, being a patriot is difficult because you will be abused and harassed. And in the end, when your friends and your other compatriots join, they will do so because it's easy and it costs them nothing. And that's unfortunately true. Those of you who, and not just because you listen to this show, there's a lot of patriots out there who have never heard of this program, never heard of me, and never will. But I got to tell you, there's a lot of people out there that are fighting for our country and for the, not the preservation of the system we have, because frankly, it's, you know, what we have now is not worth preserving. Yeah, if this is the way we've got to go moving forward, and this is the status we're going to be in moving forward, I don't want any part of that. The corruption, the betrayal, the lies, the treason, there's no part of that I want. Yes, we do need to move backward. We need to move backward to a point in time where our nation was based on the principles of honesty and integrity and honor. There's not a single politician I could point to today that said, and I could say, that person represents those things in my mind. There's a couple who come close, but there's nobody I can point to. You know, I heard the other day that a Bush Jr. won in Texas. You know, you got to be kidding me. I mean, when are we going to let the legacy of the family Clinton and the family Bush die away from politics? You got to be kidding me. Those two families have ravaged this nation for generations. You consider any of those people to have honor and integrity? Please. They've been so drunk on power for so long, they don't even know what it's like not to live with it. It's like a heroin addict who says, I've been high for so long, I can't imagine what it's like to live not high. You know, one of the people who blows my doors off on this, and I'll get onto this Obamacare and the uninsured in a minute, is a lady named Phyllis Schlafly. She came out the other day and she said the Republicans would be fools to back any kind of an amnesty program. And I posted the link up on our Facebook page and YouTube page and Patriot FB so that you can find it easily. Here's my point. Thank goodness somebody with the national visibility, because clearly that ain't me. Thank goodness somebody who's got national visibility came out and said what all the rest of us are thinking. The only plausible explanation for what's really going on with this issue of amnesty and the legalization of illegals is that those people who support it on the GOP side have either made some sort of a deal with the devil or they've been compromised because they got a secret they cannot release out of that closet. John Boehner is a guy who comes to mind because he reminds me of that little boy who's sitting there, and we've all seen it, right? You got a little boy, he's 4 years old, and he's standing there, and you're looking down at him, and he's looking up at you, and he's swearing he doesn't have something behind his back. He's got both his hands behind him, and there's cookie crumbs falling on the ground, and he's saying, I don't have any cookies, Mommy. And you know doggone well he's got cookies. You can see him. And he's got chocolate all around his face, and he says, I don't have any cookies, Mommy. What does John Boehner have in his closet? What kind of a deal did they make with him to push this monstrous thing through? There is no other plausible explanation, ladies and gentlemen. He's not doing this for the benefit of the country. You gotta be kidding me. Show me how that benefits the nation. He knows it doesn't. Everybody in Congress knows it doesn't. I mean, it's an insult to our intelligence to try to make us believe that it does. And I'm tired of being treated as if We're all a bunch of nincompoops who aren't capable of wiping our own butts without somebody from Congress stepping in to help us. Tell us what to do and how to do it. You got to be kidding me. Get out of here with that noise. You know, I'm tired of that nanny state mommy thing. You know, I'm a big boy. I don't really need somebody to tell me what to think and how to think and why I should think that way. And I'm tired of being insulted by the likes of Boehner and the likes of Lindsey Graham. You got to be kidding me. That liver-lipped monster. The truth is, Schlafly came out and said what everybody already knows. She just had the courage to say it nationally. Amnesty is a dead end for America, and especially for conservatives. Thank you, Phyllis, for speaking out. In the face of adversity and having the courage of your convictions to stand up and say what everybody else wants to say, just doesn't have the platform for. Congratulations to a woman of honor. And Bronx cheers to all the rest of you who won't. Makes me ill. Got a country that's coming apart at the seams like a cheap Chinese suit in the pouring rain. And they're all standing there telling us, trust me, that suit will stay together, as the sleeve falls off. A shame. It's no wonder that we have a country that is rife with corruption. Because all the people at the top are sitting in the nest of corruption. You know, I'm a smoker, right? People tell me all the time, oh, you got to quit smoking. It's not good for your health. I get it. And I had one guy one time, and he was a doctor. And I was talking to him, and he said, you know, you really ought to give up smoking. I said, yeah, I know. And he said, but you know what? I know that other people in your household smoke. And the challenge you have is that you can't quit doing crack when you live in a crack house. And I thought to myself, now there's an analogy that everybody can grasp. I mean, so I'm going to turn that analogy around and throw it back in Congress. Throw it back on the White House. Throw it back into the executive, into every administrative agency that operates without any even veil of lawfulness, to the entire judiciary. How are you going to quit being corrupt when you live in the heart of corruption? When you sit in the nest of corruption with your mouth open, eek, 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 feed me, feed me, feed me. You'll never separate yourself from it. And you're doing a disservice and harm to the rest of us while you enlarge your portion at our expense. If you want to tie God into this like Michelle and Barack Obama do, okay. I'm not saying that if you listen to me, you're doing God's work. I'm going to tell you flat out, if you continue to live like that, and you continue to be a leech and a tick and a parasite on the rest of us for your personal gain, whether that's power, money, sex, fame, fortune, I don't care what it is. God's got a special place waiting for you. You know, there's got to be I don't care if you don't believe in God. If it's karma, there's going to have to be some place where you're going to wake up in the universe and get pimp slapped for being a piece of trash. Human trash. For being a liar and a thief. Profiteer. All right. Let's jump on our second topic. So the news is out. Nobody's really signing up for Obamacare. Only 10% of the uninsured who qualify for private plans have actually enrolled. The truth is, we were sold a bill of goods. Anybody who doesn't believe that, and listen, a lot of us didn't buy. You see, that's the problem with the system that we have. I didn't buy. You didn't buy. But we're not given that option. We're forced to buy, even when we disagree with the value of that product. I mean, that's like me saying to you, I know you don't drink, but I'm going to force you to buy a bottle of whiskey. You say, well, why would I want to buy a bottle of whiskey? I don't drink. It doesn't make any difference. You've got to do your part. You're going to buy that whiskey, and you're going to drink it. Well, I don't drink. I don't want to drink it. Doesn't make any difference. Now, buy that whiskey, crack the top, and let me watch you drink it. Now, give me some explanation of how that's fair. Give me some explanation of how that's ethically, morally right. Give me some justification for the existence of that behavior and that level of force applied against Americans from a legal context. You can't, because it does not exist. Coercion is wrong. Period. Lying is a method of coercion, and it's wrong. Period. The unwashed masses, those peons out there who are forced to live with Obamacare while Congress exempts itself, they knew this was a lousy deal. They didn't vote for it. They didn't buy it. Now they're being forced to buy it at the point of a gun. Yesterday, Congress came out and passed a bill that would zero out the penalty associated with failing to sign up for Obamacare. Okay? And the White House said, we're going to veto it if it gets through the Senate. And guess what? It passed with a bunch of Democrats. Isn't it funny how suddenly those doggone Democrats, boy, they are just so desperately worried about your welfare when their welfare in November is on the line. They didn't give a rat's rear end for you when they were following the party line, which everyone, including they, knew was not in your best interest. But suddenly they're going to do the right thing now. So they're stepping up to the plate, and they said, hey, we're going to sign up for this. It passed by 90 votes, which is, significant. And yet, the White House came out and said, if it makes it through the Senate, we're going to veto the bill. So, all right, hang on a minute. Stop right there. What you're telling me is that when the Senate and the House pass a bill, a lawful act that is constitutionally correct, you're going to tell me that the president's going to override that and veto it. But when he wants to act unilaterally and act as a dictatorial fiat outside the boundaries of the Constitution, clearly violating the law, the tone, the tenor, the intent, the foundations, that's acceptable. Ladies and gentlemen, I got a word for that. It starts with a T. I'm going to let you say it yourself. Ready? Here we go. Boom. I didn't hear it. Treason. That's right. Treason. That's not the correct definition of treason. In order to stop. Treason is when you do things that are against the best interest of your own nation. And this is all that. And a bag of chips. When you've got Democrats and Republicans in a bipartisan fashion, every time I say that word, I want to vomit. in a bipartisan fashion, getting together to pass something which makes sense, to make the fine zero if you violate the individual mandate. And the president says, sorry, but I'm going to veto that. And then goes and does it anyway, but by unilateral decree, as if we're some sort of a banana republic, and we're all running around in loincloths with spitball target or spitball dart guns. You got to be kidding me. He's not subject to impeachment. He's subject to a trial for treason. This article that I posted up there, it's on the Weekly Standard. The tail end of it has a sentence or paragraph which is very telling. Here's what it says. I'll read you the previous sentence because it wraps it up. It's given the wide margin by which the legislation passed the House, along with the significant level of support, bipartisan support with which it passed, perhaps the Senate will actually take a vote and pass the bill and give Obama the chance to veto it. That would provide a welcome reminder to the American people of the extent to which Obama's centerpiece legislation relies upon coercion. But it also relies on lawlessness, a fact that is becoming more apparent by the day. Within hours of threatening to veto this legislative change to Obamacare, Obama announced himself that he is again making an executive change to Obamacare. In plain defiance of the legislative text, the rule of law, and the constitutional separation of powers. No wonder left-leaning constitutional scholar Jonathan Turley says that we are, quote, at a constitutional tipping point, end quote, and that Congress must act to stop this president's, quote, dangerous, destabilizing aggregation of power. Boom. When you have a president who operates outside the boundaries of the law, willfully, intentionally, and with malice aforethought, there is no other word that describes that. So you can take umbrage with that word all you want. But that is exactly what it is. This system was never intended to provide insurance for 30 million people. I mean, that the equivalent argument there is so ridiculous that you can't even make it. So let's see. We're going to upset the apple cart of 1/6 of our economy. We're going to strip the insurance from 100 million people so that we can cover 30 million people who ultimately are not going to get covered and or can't afford it. We're going to strip the taxpayers of $1 trillion a year ad infinitum going on into as far as the eye can see. We're going to strip them of their First, their Fourth, and their Fifth Amendment Bill of Rights. We're going to make them subjected to penalties which are outside the constitutional boundaries of the law. We're going to fine them and penalize them for not participating in commerce. We're going to corrupt the judgeship on the Supreme Court of the United States so that we can cover 30 million people, of which only 3 million are actually covered. Only 10% are signing up for it, folks. 10%. So 10% of 30 million is 3 million. You can do the math yourself. Why the news media can't do the math themselves is beyond my understanding. I mean, I'm assuming that they all went to the same basic arithmetic class I went to. But it's not about truth. It's all about propaganda. It's all about nudge. This is Cass Sunstein's nudge principle in play. What part of America does not see that? What part of you out there in the world don't see the nudge principle being applied to you individually every single day? Federal government has no business being in your business about every aspect of your life, determining down to what light bulb you can put into the wall. The federal government doesn't do that. No, they go down to states and they say, here's the way it works. If you don't apply federal standards to your driver's license test for every kid turning 17 years old, then we're just going to withhold a few $1 billion in road taxes and highway funds. And the states go, oh, we can't do that. Okay, what's the policy that we have to implement? Where do we sign? Well, if you don't do what we tell you to do in schools and you don't implement Common Core, we're going to withhold money. But if you do, we're going to give you this $5 billion. And the states sit there and say, let's see, if we close our eyes and we squeeze them really tight, we won't see the strings associated with this money. Let's just take it and pretend they're not there. We'll explain it later, but right now that money is looking so good. I can't wait to put it in a spoon and heat it up with a little bit of water and draw it up into a needle and shove it into my arm, baby. Straight to my heart. When politicians do that, ladies and gentlemen, there's only one word that describes it. They know there's a string. They even see what's tethered at the other end. And then they turn around to you and they put on those big pie eyes and say, I didn't know. I was thinking of you, and when I was doing this, it was in your best interest. At least I thought it was. They fooled me too. For you women out there, that's like the little boyfriend you had when you were in high school who said, I promise I'll love you forever. But the female vote in this country, boy, they just can't lap up enough of this. Oh, you will? Oh, Barack, you're so wonderful. I'm just so impressed. It feels so good to be loved. What did you want me to do again? Oh, sign up my children. Yes, I will. I'll willingly give you all of their private personal information, and I will make sure that they are a part of the system for you, because I know that when I'm helping you, I'm doing God's work. Ladies and gentlemen, if you build your life on lies, if you build your world on lies, when they become exposed, you have nowhere to turn. There is no solace. And you can only blame yourself for your greed, or your greed to feel accepted, or your greed to feel participatory. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the truth. This was never intended to do anything for America. It was intended to do things to America. The goal wasn't to save 30 million people. The goal was to enslave 285 million others. And everything else you hear is propaganda. You're listening to America's Voice now. We're going to take a break. When we return, we're going to talk about this staffer who stole secret documents from the CIA. And now the CIA has the nerve to be outraged about it. And they're defying every rule of law. Well, that's not surprising, because when the dogs of war band together, we lose.
It's about the restoration of our republic. We want to educate, encourage, enable the power. We stand for integrity, honesty, self-reliance, self-defense, and most importantly, no compromise on our foundational principles. This is America's Voice Now.
Find America's Voice Now on Facebook and at americasvoicenow.org. Here's Michael Evans.
Good morning, America. You're listening to America's Voice Now. My name is Michael Evans. I am your host this morning. You're catching us in the third of our four segments this morning. I'm glad to have you with us. Hope you're listening live on Patriot FB. If you are, welcome to the crew. These folks out there at Patriot FB are anything but your run-of-the-mill patriots. These people, in my experience, have done some great stuff, and I encourage you to participate with Patriot FB. There's a great way that you can be a part of it. You can simply go to Patriot FB, like Foxtrot Bravo, right? Or Patriot FB, like Facebook. And you can get away from the trolls and the censorship on Facebook. You can see and talk to a bunch of people that are like-minded, and you can learn great things from some of the people that have businesses on there and all kinds of things. You can also listen to America's Voice Now on Patriot Radio. You can get to Patriot Radio, and you can listen to it 24 hours a day. It's patriotfb.com/radio. I broadcast there this morning from 8 to 10 every morning. Then at 10 o'clock, they bring on another program called Resurrect the Republic. And that's with Tom Lacavara. Very good show as well. Tom is on Republic Radio, and they broadcast his show live. 11 to 2, there's music, and then from 2 to 4, J.J. McCartney comes on with his program. Excellent program, and J.J. is a seasoned radio host. He's not a hack like me. He's been doing this for 30 years, right? J.J.'s forgotten more about radio and broadcasting and professionalism behind the mic than I'll ever know. I'm no broadcaster, folks. I have no training in this. I've never taken any kind of courses or anything about it. I'm just a hack who got out there, who got sick and tired of waiting for everybody else to stand up and say something, and I figured if I don't, I got nobody to blame but myself when the whole thing comes apart. So you got to listen to a guy like JJ because he's been doing this a long time and he knows the program. 4 to 9 is music, and they play various music on there, everything from country to rock and roll and everything else. Then you got Midnight Patriot from 9 to midnight, and that is Jeff's show. Jeff is got a unique show, and it's kind of similar to mine in the sense that, sometimes he'll have guests on, but mostly it's just him talking, and he'll bring on callers and stuff like that. But I got to tell you, Jeff's a great American patriot. He's the guy who founded and created this Patriot FB, along with JJ. And I'm honored that those guys brought me on and allowed me to participate in it. So I can't say enough good things about it. I encourage you to participate with them, and I would strongly encourage you to sign up there. They do have some very, very tight security so that they can make sure that there aren't trolls out there dogging your path. And when they find a troll who's slipped in somehow, they immediately boot them. So go over there and sign up. If you have any trouble getting through the security initially, you can send an email to Jeff. His email is right on the front page there, and he'll make sure that he gets you in. The idea is that they're watching over us to make sure that we're not sitting there being inundated with these trolls who are, polluting Patriot FB the way they've destroyed and polluted Facebook, right? I mean, if you didn't hear about Facebook the other day, they're over there, changing the format now because, God forbid, somebody might actually, want to advertise that they have a gun that they'd like to sell, And you can't have that because, Facebook says you can't, and you might be selling that gun illegally. So let's take away the First Amendment rights of everybody in favor of the one person who may be doing something which, quite frankly, is not illegal in the first place. It's only declared illegal by a bunch of tyrants who claim to have some corner on the market of the law. I can't stand people who play the game of tyrant, because it really bothers me when people think, just because they say so, it must be. I really don't like that. To me, that is behavior that I find completely unacceptable. And anytime, you've got people there who think that they know better than you, they know they know far more about what you should be doing than, and you have to subject yourself to them and their ideas and their opinions and their attitudes and all of that nonsense. Man, that just burns my shorts. I'll be frank with you. Do you want to... would you give Harry Reid permission to run your life for you? Nancy Pelosi? Dianne Frankenstein? Chuck Schumer? John Boehner? Lindsey Graham? John McCain? Would you give any of those people permission to even have any say in your life? Heck no. But they do. Boy, howdy do they. All right, I broke this thing last week. I didn't break it. When I say that, I'm not a professional journalist in the sense that I break stories and because I don't have the manpower, the means, and the methodology to accomplish that. I do report on things that other people have broken, and that was what happened. So don't misunderstand what I'm saying. But I talked about this when it first broke, in which the Senate Oversight Committee for the Senate Intelligence Committee, which, clearly is non-descriptive, when they were investigating the CIA for these secret interrogation and detention programs that the CIA was running, first and foremost during the Bush administration, and then carried it over into the Obama administration. The spy agency has oversight from the Senate Intelligence Committee. And the chairwoman of that, by the way, is Dianne Frankenstein, and the Democrat from California, who's had more facelifts than I own socks. And she's like 82 years old, and she looks like she's maybe 60. Until you see her close up and you see that pancake makeup that she puts on with a trowel in the morning. And that wig, which hasn't moved in decades. And she has the unmitigated gall to pontificate to the rest of us as if we're such a lower life form than her. Like we're all just amoeba. And we should look up to her and genuflect. Every time I see that woman, I want to vomit. She's the head of that group. They're charged with making sure that the CIA is operating lawfully. I frankly think that that's impossible to conceive of. However, one of the staffers went over to Langley, which is the fortress-style headquarters of the CIA, and while that person was there, they managed to get a hold of some documentation that Langley didn't really want him to have. And they released it to the committee, and this report was done, which was, they worked on this thing for a very long time, folks. And it ended up being, I think it was 6,400 pages or something like that. And it basically was damning. It was damning of the agency because it exposed that they knew all along that this was a criminal act on the part of the CIA. It was a 6,300-page report, and it laid out in exhaustive detail what lawmakers have publicly described as a scathing indictment of the CIA's use during the Bush administration, waterboarding and other harsh techniques to interrogate suspected terrorists detained in secret black site prisons overseas. The study took 4 years to complete, and it cost us $40 million. It also found that the CIA misled the White House, misled Congress, and they misled the public over the value of the intelligence that they produced as a result of using these techniques. Right? So let me ask you this. If the Senate Intelligence Committee has oversight over the CIA, here's my question. How is it that the CIA has the brass to be incensed about that? I mean, that's like sitting there and saying, you're an investigator with a police force. You're investigating a murder. But you're not allowed to look inside any of the closets. You're not allowed to look inside any of the drawers. You're not allowed to open up the safe. You're not allowed to take fingerprints. What's the point of the investigation? How are you expecting anything to be determined? Now, Feinstein's kept a pretty tight lip on this. She doesn't want everybody in America to recognize that she is in a death grip battle with the CIA for who's really in charge here. And she very, very rarely comments. And when she does, it's like these bip, 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 1 or 2 word sentences. The truth is, even Obama won't talk about it. When he was asked about it he was at a lunch during a visit to Connecticut, and he was meeting with 4 governors up there. And he was asked by a reporter if he had any reaction to the allegation that the CIA had monitored Intelligence Committee computers, because after the CIA determined that these documents were stolen, they went out and literally broke in and hacked the computers of the Senate Intelligence Committee. And Obama's sole response was, "Excuse me, I got to make sure I don't spill anything on my tie." Because, you see, here's the problem. And this is the proof beyond a reasonable and shadow of a doubt that we live in a police state. Everything's a secret. Everything. It's all secrets. And you're not entitled to know. Everything's above your pay grade. Makes no difference what it is. If it deals with government, it's a secret. National security. You see, here's the problem, folks. We have this thing called overclassification that's going on right now in our country, and it has reached an epidemic level. Like the Black Plague, the bubonic plague, it has infiltrated every aspect of government. Everything is a national security secret. And that's not how a republic operates. Why do I call this a police state? Because police states thrive in that environment. That's like giving bacteria the soupy environment, the warm and soupy, that they need to thrive and grow. And the analogy can be even further drawn. You see, the maggots in our government, whether those be on the non-secret or the secret side, are growing at an alarming rate. And the damage they're doing to our country by classifying everything as a national security secret is beyond comprehension. Because even if we were to, in the unimaginable unicorn fantasy world that everything stops right here, right now, and everybody comes clean, it would take us decades to clear off all of the poison that's been injected into our system. The damage that's been done. Just to uncover it, much less clear it out. and make amends. That's why I say to you that there are no political solutions here. Now at this point, it's just a waiting game. I did an interview yesterday with Jack Spirko, which I got to finish doing the editing work and cleaning it up and all of that. Not that I will edit a word, by the way, that Jack or I said, but I got to fix the beginning and the end and all that hoopla. And I'll play it for you guys. It was a very long interview, and it was very, very interesting. And Jack has a slightly different take. He believes that this isn't going to, be a boom. He thinks this is going to be a slow-motion crash over a long, extended period of time. Instead of the plane auguring straight into the ground, it's going to come in for this belly whop that's still going to hurt, but it won't kill everybody on the plane in a fiery explosion all at once. And he may be right. I don't know. Nobody knows. But the truth of the matter is, in either event, the plane is going down. That's what matters. And whether the plane lands on its belly or it lands on its nose, the plane is going down. And it's going down at the hands of these people. It's going down because they consistently and continuously scream, secret, 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 while they work their evil machinations in the background. Irrespective of whether it's criminal issues, whether it's money issues, whether it's influence issues, whether it's foreign policy, whether it's domestic policy, whether it's immigration, all of it is done in secret. We cannot live and have a democracy or have a Republican democracy where everything is a secret, except your secrets. You're not allowed to have any. None. They are entitled to know everything about you from birth to death. Not because they need them, because they need to be able to use them against you at an opportune moment when you cross the line or transgress their authority. They, on the other hand, are entitled to unlimited secrets about everything. You're not entitled to know anything about them. You're not entitled to know where any of the money came that influences them. You're not entitled to understand what they're deciding and how they're deciding it and who's making the influential decisions and bribing them. It's out of control. And there are no political solutions. That's my point. You see, this plane is going down. And the question is, when? I don't know. But the fact that it's coming out of the air and whether it lands softly or it lands on its nose and bursts into fire, it doesn't make a difference. The fact of the matter is the plane is never going to reach its intended destination. And its intended destination was what we were all banking on. That's why we got on the plane in the first place. We wouldn't have got on it if we didn't think we were going to arrive at the other end. Our founders planned the trip. And they said, these are the things you got to watch out for. There's turbulence over there. There are other planes flying around over there. And so when you get to those areas, you got to watch out. And the pilot put on blinders, and he sat there, and he leaned back. He got himself stoned, and then he sat back and fell asleep in the chair. And we never even knew. And those of us who were capable of knowing, we were silent. The fall of America is not necessarily and only and exclusively the fault of traitors and cutthroats and self-profiteering scum. It's our fault for allowing it to happen because we allowed our own greed to rule the day. We allowed our greed and our personal engagement to slip and falter because we liked what was happening too. And ladies and gentlemen, that's why this country won't stand up. They won't stand up because it means you've got to acknowledge that you played a role in it. And like a dirty 12-step program, a dirty habit broken by a 12-step program, you don't want to acknowledge that you are out of control. We are out of control. Because we want our big screen TV, and we want our vacation, and we want that bottle of nice wine, and we want that iPad or that other gadget, or we want to sit around and play video games all day long while we pop some kind of painkiller we bought on the street because our doctors have cut us off. And then to hide and massage away our pain, we take some kind of antidepressant that just puts us in a fog of apathy. Or the rest of us are out there smoking pot saying, well, you know, mañana, baby, it's all right, it's all going to be okay. That's the problem with America, folks. It ain't just them. It's all of us. We've abandoned the principles that we knew mattered. We're all co-pilots, and none of us have screamed the alarm. And that's our fault. And now, we find that when we realize that we can actually, or have to do something in order to keep the plane from crashing, and we have to scream the let's roll call to keep the terrorists from destroying the plane, we find that it's really too late. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to hit on this issue of Stingray. The cops in every town, city, county, whatever, they've all turned into a 1,000 little mini-me NSA spying operations. And you're on the radar. We'll be right back. You're listening to America's Voice now. All right, make sure that you visit with our sponsors, please, and let them know that you appreciate them, because that's what keeps us on the air. Go see our friends over at the Battery Station, batterystation.com, 417-257-7799. Jason Henry Law Offices, 417-256-4100. State, federal cases, criminal, civil, and automobile accident and personal injury stuff. Patriot Cigar and Tobacco Shop and Wits End Classic Barbershop. Patriot Cigar and Tobacco is 257-1776. They do ship. Wits End, by the way, they hold bachelor parties. If you're getting married this spring, go call those guys and have a bachelor party down there. Sports events, all kinds of things. Wits End Classic Barbershop, where you can get a great haircut for $10, 372-2027. Our friends over at Express Mini Marts 1 and 2 up on the north end of West Plains on 14 and 63 in Old Granny's Cafe building. There's drive-thrus there and at their location down across the street from the city pool in West Plains. Make sure that you go there. And then lastly, our friends over at Pizza Hut on Porter Wagoner Boulevard. Make sure that you get in there, and they also deliver, so give them a call over at Pizza Hut, and they will deliver to you, and or you can swing in and eat there. We'll be back in just a second. AmericasVoiceNow.org. Listening to America's Voice Now. We're back. My name is Michael Evans. I'm your host here. Like it or not. Of course, if you don't like it, you can always change the channel. I know. I don't want you to. Sometimes people just don't like reality to reach up and go, ksh, ksh. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day who I've known for 25 years. I used to work for him when I worked for Verizon. Good friend, Nick. And I'm talking to Nick, and he lives back in my old stomping grounds on the East Coast. And we were talking for a while, and he finally says to me, you're depressing to talk to. And I said, I know, bro, and I apologize, but if I don't share the truth with you, then I'd be deleterious in my duty as your friend. We were talking about, he's got a family and how they should have a exit strategy, if you will, that if things ever get bad, politically, financially, fiscally, whatever, how he could get away from an urban community that would become, quite frankly, dangerous. So, but, it is true. I know. People don't like to hear bad news. People don't like to be challenged and they don't like what they know to be true in the back of their minds brought right out to the front of the conversation. And I'm sorry. I get it. And I suppose that's part of what, makes this unpopular, because we've become a nation of people who are willing to lay the blame at somebody else's feet, never our own. And we're well practiced at it, I might add. We've become a nation that always wants to point the finger at somebody else and say, it's not my fault, it's their fault. The truth of the matter is, ladies and gentlemen, it's not their fault, it's our fault. It's our fault for not knowing and being unwilling to watchdog those who we knew were in a position to do us harm, and we knew would, given the opportunity. How else can I express it? We knew that they would abuse the power because, well, history tells us everybody does. And we sat here and pretended, nah, these guys are different. Come on. Look at any one of those sophomoric rubes up there in the White House and over in Congress, and tell me any one of those people you would trust to walk your dog. And to bring it back home to this particular topic, we've got the same problem in our local communities. It's not just in D.C., it's not just in our state capitals, it's in our own towns and cities. There's an article I put up on Facebook and on Patriot FB and America's Voice Now this morning, where it's entitled Spy Game. Local police tap cell phones. And this is relating to a case in Tallahassee, Florida, where, and the opening gambit and the opening statement is just perfect. It says, the National Security Agency apparently isn't the only government agency engaged in domestic spying. Local law enforcement is playing the role of Big Brother too, but to what extent is still unknown. Court documents are revealing that basically what they were doing was this Florida Police Department in Tallahassee was put up something called a Stingray. I've talked to you about this before. It's a technological piece of equipment that basically, and I posted up a sister article on it called Meet the Machines That Steal Your Phone's Data from Ars Technical, which is a great group. And they explain to you what these Stingrays are. And essentially what they are is they attach them to a cell phone tower, and all of the information and the contact and the communication, the text, the GPS coordinates of every phone out there is translated straight through a pipe to them. And it passes through to the cell phone, to the carrier, so your call still goes through. But while you're talking to your sister, or you're talking to your mother, or you're talking to your partner in crime, doesn't make a difference, right? They're capturing your geography, they're capturing your texting, and they're capturing your voice calls. And unlike the NSA, they don't care whether they store it or not, because nobody's watching these people. Now, they attempted to keep this whole thing secret, even from the judges involved, which ought to raise all kinds of flags. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, the flags on this play ought to be flying like confetti after the Super Bowl. The article says, recent court documents reveal a troubling cell phone surveillance program conducted by a Florida police department against unsuspecting cell phone users. They attempted to keep the practice secret, even from judges, and it's raising questions as to just how prevalent police spying is within the Sunshine State. Mark my words, ladies and gentlemen, it's not just the Sunshine State. This just happens to be a Sunshine State watchdog group. But it's nationwide. They arrested this guy named James Thomas. He was a suspect that they believed to be in the possession of a stolen phone. So you got to stop right there and ask yourself this question. You mean to tell me that your Fourth Amendment right, your First Amendment right, all of that, your Fifth Amendment rights, are being stripped from you so Betty can get her cell phone back? What? They located and arrested Thomas by tracking his cell phone signal and then promptly searched his home. Later on, during the court case, it became known that the police didn't seek a warrant, and they didn't admit using the little-known surveillance device called Stingray. It's a small mobile device that tracks cell phone users, and it connects to them if they are any way connected to a cell phone tower. The technology gives police the ability to track phone movements and intercept phone calls and text messages of any cell phone within its range. In the court case, Thomas's attorneys asked police how they determined the defendant had the cell phone in question, and the police declined to answer in an open trial. Does the word police state come to mind? A judge ordered the response, but only after he cleared the courtroom and sealed the official record. Stop right there. If that's not confirmation that the police state is in place, nothing is. Go back to our last segment. Everything's a secret. Now it's an appeal. And courtroom deliberations during the appeal revealed last week that the Tallahassee police used the Stingray 200 times since 2010. And not a single time did they get a warrant. 200 times. Now, let's recognize something. During those 200 uses, they weren't just capturing, Captain Criminal's information. They were capturing Captain Criminal's information along with the information from thousands of other users, all of whom have been digitally raped by the Tallahassee Police Department. The appeals court judge says, this record makes it very clear that Tallahassee Police Department were not going to get a search warrant because they had never gotten a search warrant before for this technology. Here's the problem. When you have a virus in the body, it spreads because that's what viruses do. They multiply and they spread. And when you have the NSA and the DHS and the FBI who are operating with these same programs but with legal impunity and immunity, it's no surprise to find out that the virus has traveled down to the big toe and to the knee joint and the elbow joint and the shoulder joint. The ACLU got involved in this case, and they say when police use invasive surveillance equipment to surreptitiously sweep up information about location and communications of large numbers of people, court oversight and public debate are essential. I stop right there. I get the ACLU's attempt to try to do this, and I know the argument that law enforcement's going to put out. It's worth it. And I'm saying to you, go back and listen to Mr. Ben Franklin when he said to you that if you give up all of your privacy and you give up everything so that you will be safe, you have lost everything. The ACLU is leading an effort now to try to determine exactly how widespread, this tracking is in Florida. And this is, the ACLU, if you don't know, each state has their own ACLU. And so this ACLU is obviously the Florida division or whatever. They announced a public records submission Monday, which is, I'm sure, an FOIA, to nearly 30 police departments and sheriff's departments across the state. The court records on this particular guy's appeal show that the Tallahassee Police Department did not seek any search warrants in the Thomas case because, quote, it did not want to reveal information about the technology they used to track the cell phone signal. Come on, people. You got to be kidding me. I mean, who are they to unilaterally make that determination? That none of us have a right to know, even though we're all involved. Even though it's our personal information and our personal conversations and our locations that are being captured along with Captain Criminal. Well, they know what's best, right? The Tallahassee Police Department said that the Stingray was loaned to the department from a private manufacturer who required a non-disclosure agreement. Wait until you see what this argument is that they gave the court. It makes me so mad because if you tried to use this kind of an argument to defend bank robbery or any kind of criminal activity you were in, they would throw the book at you. Just wait. Listen to this. So their argument was that the Stingray was loaned from a private manufacturer who required a non-disclosure agreement. Quote, a non-disclosure agreement is typically a civil agreement between two or more parties over a commercial contract. That's Christopher Torres, the Tallahassee defense lawyer, right? Here's what Torres says. They're saying, because it's a cell phone, and I apologize, he is not representing or defending Tallahassee Police Department. He says, they're saying because it's a cell phone, they don't have to get a warrant, but it's basically a wiretap. You cannot say something is protected by a trade agreement and that somehow that trade agreement trumps the U.S. Constitution. Well, listen, I had to rob the bank because I had signed an agreement that said I would. And, of course, that trumps law. That trumps the rule and the rights of those people that were terrified or I shot during the course of the robbery. That trumps the law of the insurance, the rules and the protections that our rule of law gives to the insurance companies and the bank who lost money. Ars Technica, and that's where I gave you the link to the other article, has an article out there that says Stingrays are exclusively manufactured by Harris Corporation. Now, for those of you who don't know who Harris Corporation is, do your homework. They're a Melbourne-based telecommunications company. They earn $5 billion in annual revenue, and they supply electronic equipment to government, defense, and commercial sectors. Ars Technica reports that since 2004, Harris has earned more than $40 million from spy technology contracts with city, state, and federal authorities in the United States. And that's based on procurement records. We don't know how many of these are out there on loan for a modest stipend. How many are pilot projects, like the Tallahassee Police Department? Here's the problem, folks. They're taking their lead from on high. And not a single one of these people, because they're looking at it myopically. Well, I'm only looking at this from the perspective of law enforcement, and that girl was entitled to get her phone back. Not at the expense of millions of other people's rights. This is not Machiavellian. The ends justify the means 101. I want the girl to have her cell phone back too. But it doesn't give you the right to kick in every door in the community and search everybody's underwear drawer in an effort to find it. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the problem. You see, they're ingraining and indoctrinating you with the principle that anything goes to solve the smallest, most insignificant, incremental little break of the law. I grant you, stealing is wrong. But it doesn't warrant and justify the ability for an out-of-control law enforcement agency in your city, in your town, to violate everyone else's rights in an attempt to find it. Theft has been going on since men were capable of looking at the stars and saying, I am sentient, I exist. Ugh. He has a haunch of bison over there that looks good, and I'm going to go take it. It's been wrong for all eternity. And it's going to be with us for all eternity. At least on the earth. The point is, that does not give anyone the right to say, unilaterally, I am in charge and I can do whatever I want to make sure that I get that girl's cell phone back. And I don't care how many people's rights I've got to step on and trample into the dirt. I don't care whether I've got to hurt someone else. I don't care whether I've got to kick in a door and find that his mother comes to the door and she doesn't understand what the heck is going on, and we're going to shoot her because she grabs a hold of a family shotgun standing in the corner. All so that Cindy can have her cell phone back? Please. The truth of the matter is, this is the same nonsensical garbage that we keep seeing over and over and over and over again. This is the same justification they give for kicking in the door and shooting Grandma McGillicuddy. Well, she didn't show up in court for that hearing, and we were serving a warrant. Did you knock? Well, we don't have to knock. You don't? Since when? Well, it turned out to be the wrong house anyway. Nah, no kidding. So Grandma McGillicuddy grabbed the family shotgun, and boom, she found out she had 32 bullet holes in her. From a bunch of trigger-happy nincompoops. Well, I got all this training. Doggone it, I'm using it. Ladies and gentlemen, I mean, at what point in time do we recognize, that this is out of control? And that the only way that it's going to stop is when we stand up and say, it's going to stop. All right, before we run out of time, there's a couple things I want to remind you about. On Monday, Common Sense Property Rights Coalition is meeting, and they're going to meet in Mammoth Springs at the Spring Dipper on Highway 63. Now, if you're not a member of one of these property rights coalition groups and you're local in the area, you have no idea, one, that you're missing out on a great opportunity to learn an enormous amount of information from a bunch of people that really work hard to try to help our own communities. But more important than that, you're not doing your part to help the rest of us fight against this exact kind of thing I was just talking about. These property rights coalition groups actively go out there and fight aggressively for your property rights. And you're the beneficiary, so the least you can do is show up and help. It doesn't cost any money. You're not required to pay any dues. All it takes is your time and your interest and engagement. One of the things that they're going to do on this particular episode on Monday night is they're going to have Kevin Jotz, who's a police officer in the community here, but he's a retired LAPD officer. And he's a Medal of Valor winner, and he's currently a police officer in Somersville. And he's going to explain what citizens' rights are during a police stop. And we're actually going to probably do like a role play thing. And how probable cause is used or misused, and how you can retain your rights, how you should respond in that kind of a confrontational situation. We see tons and tons and tons of examples lately of police, abusing their classification as the law. Here's an opportunity for you to learn how to respond appropriately and safely. Jotz believes that many area police officers simply do not understand the law themselves, and that many citizens are stopped and searched without probable cause or a legal right by the officer to conduct the search. The best legal defense is the knowledge of the law and a citizen's rights, said Jotz. If you want more information on how you can go or where it's held or anything else about it, 417-264-2435. It's 417-264-2435. Mike Slack and Kevin are both the co-sponsors of this group. There are other groups. Bob Parker and Doreen Hannes run one out in Mountain Grove that is next week. You guys, if you're not participating in these, you are really missing a great opportunity to help yourselves and help your communities out. So this was the groups. These were the groups that kicked off the Blueways fight, that kicked off the Ozark Scenic National Riverways fight. So don't tell me that they're powerless and that they don't bring any. And when these state representatives and federal representatives hear from these people, they respond. Secondarily, there's this weekend at Mountain Grove, there's that gun show that's going to be held at the YMCA, Mountain Grove YMCA. And Chad Tanner, my friend out there from Red River Guns, is going to be out there, and he's got a lot of repair and replacement parts for AR rifles. And so, including whole upper assemblies for 7.62 by 39. So you can convert your .223 into a 7.62 by 39, which is a heavier caliber bullet. Maybe not quite as accurate for such great distances, but it has a whole lot more punch close up. Great home defense round. And he'll be in Mountain Grove. He's also got a website called Red River Guns, and we're talking about trying to help him bring that up to speed and through my web development company. So full disclosure. But anyway, he's got all kinds of repair and replacement parts, including springs and pins and grips and buttstocks and all kinds of stuff that you want to have access to. So I would get over there and make sure that you see him. His name is Chad. He will be at that show. It is Saturday from 9 to 5, Sunday 9 to 3, and again, it's Red River Guns. Give him a chance to talk with you about your needs. It's always a good idea to have plenty of backup replacement parts in these types of for these types of weapons. So don't miss that opportunity. Okay. We're going to wrap up our show today. I would like for you to communicate with me. You can do so by getting to me at mike@americasvoicenow.org. I want to hear your feedback. Was this a good episode, a bad episode? Don't send me email with a link to a YouTube video and tell me, watch this. I don't watch them. You're wasting your time. I don't have the time to watch them. I have to run a business after I get out of here and try to feed my own family. So since I do this voluntarily and it actually costs me money, don't waste my time. I don't mean to be harsh, but I do mean to be clear. Don't send me a link and say, watch this. It explains exactly how I feel. If you can't take the time to write down exactly how you feel, don't waste my time. I do want to hear from you, but, be cognizant of my time and value that, because I do. Okay, you can reach me at mike@americasvoicenow.org. Have a great day. We will see you Monday. I would like for you to make sure that while you're at it, you please sponsor or visit our sponsors, Wits End Classic Barbershop, 417-372-2027, Patriot Cigar and Tobacco Shop at number 2 Court Square on the square in West Plains, 417-257-1776. The law offices of Jason Henry at 417-256-4100. My friends over at Pizza Hut and Bruce, the manager over there, who is a great American patriot. When you get over to Pizza Hut, make sure that you tell your server or Bruce that you'd like to just have a quick mention or a quick discussion with the manager. And when he comes over, shake his hand and say, thanks very much for sponsoring AVN. I appreciate it. Their friends over at Mini Mart Expresses 1 and 2. They are located in West Plains. They both have a drive-through location. One is on the corner of 14 and 63 in Old Granny's Cafe building. And then the second one is right across the street from the City Pool and People's Park in West Plains. Both on that's on Porter Wagoner Boulevard. Also, last but not least, our friends at Battery Station, 417-257-7799, and also batterystation.com. If you need a website for your business or you need an e-learning project accomplished for your business, by all means, please communicate with me about that, because I'll be more than happy to help you. You can get it. You can find out more about the work that we do at airbridgeweb.com. You can also call the office there at 417-204-4064. Have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow morning. God bless.